So my name is Karen Bernard. I run Even & Star Vision Designs. So part of my business is consultant contract work and fashion textile work as well for Indigenous people. So I've worked 24 years in social justice in every aspect, from human trafficking, mental health, Indian residential school, Indian day school, victims of the courts, homelessness, poverty, family violence, sexualized violence, etc. So I did that for a number of years, and in 2022 of April, I decided, I think it's time to leave the office and figure out what I want to do. So I did, and then I registered my business, and it became this name. And the name came from my traditional name. So my traditional name is Even & Star Woman. So then I said, the name of my company should be called something with Even & Star. So anyway, I called it Even & Star Vision Designs. And the reason because Vision Designs, because I had to vision what somebody would tell me about a piece of work they wanted done, whether it's a jacket or whether it's a ribbon skirt or a peak cap, what would that vision look like? And then I had to take their story and put it down
So you
into
almost have a
here.
consultation with the client before
Yeah.
you... Really?
Yeah, so that's part of what I do now. And it's just grown from that to also becoming a published author with Nelson Education in Toronto. So I do children's legends and stories, but now I'm doing them from grade primary to grade 12 now. So they have yet to release that. I have my publisher working with me now, not my publisher, my illustrator. And I'm also a national speaker, trainer on sexualized violence in regards to the commercial exploitation of children.
Could you maybe list off some of the services that you provide?
And so of course, I provide consultation work in regards to design wear. So if somebody wants a ribbon skirt or they want a peak cap, which is what we call the Kini'skwe'j, then we would talk about what that would look like.
How did the Peak Cap workshop develop?
It developed in, the first one I believe was 2016. We had some funding, me and another co-worker in Kini'skwe'j, and I was working for Kini'skwe'j Mental Health Services. So I was a resolution health support worker at the time, working with survivors of residential school and descendants. So at that time, that was my role. We had some funding, so they said, hey, we should try to make some peak caps. I'm like, okay. And we knew Jane Meter was the only elder that knew how to make them. So Jane came in, it was 4 sessions over a month to make this peak cap because it incorporated the design work, then the beading and the sewing, and then the assembly in all these areas. So I did it, I'm following Jane, I'm listening to everything she's telling us to do, cut out this and do that and do that. And I finished my first one. So I was very proud, like, oh my God, it's beautiful, and got it all done. And I went with her for a few more workshops to assist her because we were funding her through my program. So everywhere she went, I had to go with her. So I was helping her out, and she's, Karen, you're going to be my assistant. So I would help her. And finally, I'm doing a lot of the work, because I was loving it, and I enjoyed doing it. And I was doing all the preparation, talking with people. If they were stuck, I'm assisting them. And I think we did 3 workshops in total. Then I got a call from another community. Karen, can you come in and do a peak workshop with us? I don't know, I said, if I can do that, because I have to ask my elder first. So I told Jane, I said, another community is asking me to come in to do the peak cap workshop. Can I do that? Of course you can. I'm like, okay. And I did my first workshop, I believe it was in 2017, I believe, in a community. And I believe it had eight elders, I believe. And because elders sometimes have a hard time with their vision and stuff, we didn't use the little beads. We had to, we graduated to a little bigger bead so that it was easier for people to do beadwork. One of the things I've come to realize, and I'm not sure how many I've done, by the way, I've done a numerous amount of peak cap workshops since then. Even during the pandemic, we started one. It was for our families of the missing and murdered. So when we talk about the ribbon skirts having a story, the peak caps that we helped the families design were to represent their family members. One of them is amazing. One peak cap, and I just have to talk about this one peak cap. It was a woman lost her 3 children in a house fire. And I was 6 years old at the time, and those children were my friends. We played with them every day. They were only about half a mile from us. And something happened at the home that night that caused a fire. The children were hiding somewhere in the home. And the parents are trying to fend off the person that was trying to intrude their home. And just things got a little chaotic. The design work that this aunt did, even though the aunt is in her 70s, 80s, was a beautiful peak cap where she put angel wings and she did some beadwork and felt work, and she created the little girl, the little boy, and the other little boy on this piece. And I can show you pictures of that after.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And presented it to her sister for Christmas. So the sister has this memory of her children in a shadow box, this beautiful peak cap, because she said, I'll never wear it, but I'm going to hold it. And one day I remember I told her, I said, we need to get them professionally photographed. But hers wasn't professionally photographed at the time, I don't think. And I can't remember, but anyways, she ended up, said, I can't bring it. I don't want to take it out of the box, of the shadow box. I said, you don't have to, I said. We'll photograph you with you holding it. Really? I said, yeah. So she held that shadow box on her lap, and she had the most beautiful smile on her face of her holding the memory of her children. So the peak caps and whatever we're doing is always creating some form of healing for our families, for our people, for our women, children. There's always something in it that's going to create peace and calmness in somebody. So that was one of the things. So and it wasn't only that community. There was Wagaba community. It was Member 2, Shubenacadie, Indian, Millbrook, and Halifax, where we did the project for these families to create peak caps to commemorate their families. So in Member 2 and Wagama, we have commemoration parks for the families to go to, and we partner with communities here and partner with people in Sydney, in Member 2 to create these beautiful parks. So that was one of the big stories of me teaching the peak caps. But also what we've done, and this is something I've noticed, just like the education system, when people are struggling, when your students are struggling. I had to help one elder, and I'll never forget this, and this is when I realized I have to use the Tuaitzian into this whole way of doing things now. I remember she came in with her piece that was beaded, and she was starting her beadwork. And she was frustrated when she says, Karen, I don't like this, it's crooked. Can you take all this off for me? Sure, I said. So I took all those little beads off and we got rid of them, and she's going to restart. So I gave it back to her. So dinner time came that day and she's gone. And I told the other participants, where did she go? They said, oh, she went home and she gave up and she was frustrated and she went home crying. And I'm like, oh no, that's not good. My elder went home crying. So I said, I'm going to go see her. So I went to go see her, and I asked her, I said, what happened? Did I do something? Did I upset you? She says, no, she says. I couldn't tell you, I have bad arthritis. And she didn't have the flexibility to make a beautiful piece of beadwork. And she didn't have the courage to tell me because she was shamed by it. And I said, oh my goodness, I said, I wish I'd known. But I said, don't worry about it. We can solve this problem. I have something for you. And she says, really? I said, yeah. The design that you were trying to make, I have a machine that's going to cut that design out, and we're going to iron that design onto your peak cap. You won't even need to do beadwork. So we're going to iron this down, and then we're just going to sew it together. So creating some kind of accommodations for people to do the beadwork, whether it's visual, whether it's their dexterity. I also have other ways of people doing things. So the elder that went home, it's heat transfer vinyl. Okay. So the heat transfer vinyl is what I use when they can't do other ways of doing things. Okay. Or we're doing a thing called hot fix now. So hot fix is like a little heat gun. So you have your little gem on the tip of that little gun, and it adheres to the fabric. Okay. So they're able to do things like that. We have fabric glue and gem tack, I think it's called. So adhering gems to the fabric as well, that it'll stay. There's embroidery now. There is this pattern just doing the heat transfer only. So there's many ways to do it now, when we only thought there was one way, and that was beading. So if you couldn't do any of these pieces, if you had to only bead, and we had many people that could not bead, that wouldn't come back. They didn't come back. They said, that's okay, I'm good, I'm not going to come back. And then they don't finish it. So now that we've incorporated multiple ways of doing it, everybody's like, oh, I want to do it that way. I can do it this way. I can do it that way. Accommodations is so important. So the Kini'skwe'j, I was asked if I could come to, if a non-Indigenous person can make it and wear it. I said, no, you can't, I said. But there is a little workshop I do that you make a 3-inch mini Kini'skwe'j, I call it, which you put into a frame, and it's a little piece that you can make and take with you. But I will not teach you to make the one that I would wear. I just don't think it's right, and it's the same thing as me giving you a headdress and having you put that on. I won't do that. So I've been asked to go off community to do that, and I said, no, sorry, I'm not doing that. But I will teach you about what it is and why we wear them, why they're designed this way, who they benefit, who they are for.
Ego igande ha ego gwandu dana he